Okay, thank you so much. We continue with the Alamat 1100, where we are looking at, now we are at Unit 3, where we are looking at relations and functions. Relations and functions. Under relations and functions, we are going to look at your subtopic 3.3, which is the composite functions. Composite functions. Okay, so before we look at the examples, we need to define this word composite functions. What is a composite function? What is a composite function? A composite function, so a composite function is what you get when you combine two functions is what you get when you combine two functions together. What you get when you combine two functions together, so that the output of the first function, becomes the input of the second function. Okay, so we are saying a composite function is what you get when you combine two functions together, so that the output of the first function becomes the input of the second function. Now, there are other people that have defined the composite functions. So one of them that have defined a composite function is Stewart. Stewart 2015. So we are saying Stewart 2015. Stewart 2015 defines a composite function as the composition of two functions f and g, in the function obtained by applying G first and then F. Okay, so what do we mean by this? Stewart here means that it's saying that there are two functions here. There's a function of F and a function of G. So when these two functions are put together, they form a composite function. Composite in the sense that there are two merged functions here. So this one is can be denoted as F of G, or if you want to start with G, you can start with G of F. Okay, so this one is read as F of G or G of F. So this is what we mean when we say a composite function. There are two different functions that we have here, and when we put them together to make one function, we call it as a composite function. Okay, so after that, let's go to examples. And let's now look at the examples that we can find under composite functions. How do we solve these two different functions put together? How can we put these two functions together to make one function? Okay, so we have a question here which says that let examples. So we look at the examples. We are looking at example number 1, which says that let f of x be equal to 2x plus 2 and g of x be equal to x squared. Find f of g of x. So we are given this question to solve. We are given the first function as the function of f, and we are given the function of g. So now we are told to find the f of g of x. So how can we find this function? So now we are combining these two functions, function f and function g, to make one function. So how are we combining them? So, solution. Here we are given to find f of g of x. Okay, so how do we combine this? So see, this simply means that in the function of f, this function of f, where there is x, we are going to put the function of g. So in the function of f, where there is x, we are going to put the function of g. So how do we do it? We get this function first. So the function of f of x, it is this one here. So we have 2x plus 2. So now we are told that in the function of f, where there is x, we are putting what? the function of g. And which function of g? It is here. So the function of g is given by x squared. So what we are going to do here, we are going to say therefore f of g of x will give us 2 outside. We are going to have a 2 here. Then where there's x here, we are putting the function of g. So we are saying this is x squared. Then there's a plus here. Then there's a 2 there. So we write like this. So finally, we are going to have 2x squared plus 2. Plus 2. Okay? So this will be our answer. Then from there, sometimes they will not give you this x, they will give you a figure here. Then they will request you to say, can you find f of g of a certain number that is going to be given there. So how do we find such? Okay, so for that one is very simple. It is very easy to find that. So how do you go about it? So we do this. Here is another example. Example number 2. Example number 2. So number 2, we have this question here. Let f of x be equal to x plus 1 and g of x be equal to 3x. Find the g of f of 4. Okay, so here is a question that we have on the board. So we are given a function here as f of x is equal to that and g of x is equal to that. So we are told to find, can you find the g of f of 4? So how can we find this one? Very simple. It is very simple. So how can we find it? We can do the following. First of all, we have this function and that function. So here, instead of putting the function of f into the function of g into f, we are putting the function of f into g. So now, what is this function? The function is g of x is equal to 3x. So as we said there, we said first things first. Where there's x, we are putting the function of f this time around. So where there's x, we are putting this function there. So we are going to have g of f of 4 being equal to 3 outside, as we said. Where there's an x here, where there's x, we are going to put this function here, which is x plus 1. So this simply means that after putting this, before we even put this 4, we have to simplify first. So we're going to say 3x plus 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 1, it is a 3. So now, where there's x here this time around, we're not going to leave it the way it is here. We are going to put the figure that we are given, which is a 4. So 4 plus 3 there. Okay. So 3 times 4, we know it is a 12 plus 3. So when we simplify there, we are going to find the what? A 15. All right. So now, we know that when we are given a figure, we have to replace and find the value. When we are not given a figure, we don't replace any figure. We just leave it as an expression. Okay? Let's move on to another example. example. Let's move on to another example. Okay, we move on to another example. So, what is the other example that we have? We have this example. Example number 3. Let f of x be equal to sine x and g of x be equal to x squared. Find f of g of bar. Yeah, beautiful. So it's not always that you'll be given the number like 4 or just a letter like x to find. Sometimes you'll be given a pi to replace and then evaluate. Okay, so here this time around we are given a pi to evaluate, so we have the solution there. So how can we solve such a question? How can we solve such a question? Very simple, very simple. So as usual, we have to put these functions together, combine the functions together, then replace what is supposed to be replaced. So how are we combining it? We are combining this function in this form. First of all, we have this function here. This is the first function that we have to write. F of x is equal to sine x. Okay? So now we are putting this function where there is x in this function. So the function of g, we are getting the function of g and putting it in the function of f where there is what? X. So therefore, we are going to have the following. We have a pi there. So it means that in the function of this function now, we have sine what? X. So there, where there's x here, now this time around we are not putting this one first. We have to put the function of what? The function of g. And what is the function of g? It is x squared. Okay. So finally we have sine x squared. So after that, we know that we've been given a figure which is a pi to put there. So we are saying sine pi. So we are putting a pi there. But remember this x that we have here, it is squared. So it has to be squared also. So when you simplify this, you are going to find that approximately after simplifying that, we are going to get 0.4303. So after simplifying that, this is the answer that you are going to get. So this is the answer that you are going to get. Okay, we move again to another beautiful example. So this is how we simplify when we are given sign. We replace where there is x, we replace what the figure that is given in the question. Then now evaluate and find the what? The value. Okay, we move on to yet another exciting question. We move on to another exciting question. Okay, so we have this question here. This is now question number 4. We are saying that let f of x be equal to x plus a2, and the g of x is equal to 1 over x. Then we are told to say, find f of g over half. Okay, so we have that question on the board, and we also need to solve it. Very simple and straightforward. So how can we solve such a question? It is very simple, like drinking water. Okay, so we do the following. We know that in the function of f this time around, we are putting the function of g. In the function of f, we are putting the function of g. We are putting them together before we replace a half. So what are we going to do? So we have this function, f of x is equal to x plus 2. Okay, so we are saying in the function of f, for us to find the f of g of x first, okay, we need to replace where there is x, we replace the function of what? Of g. So how do we replace this? We are saying where there is x, we are just putting that. So it is 1 over x plus what? Plus a2. Okay, so after doing that, we are told that now we should find the f of g over half. So f of g over half is equal to, so where there is the x this time around, we're not putting x, but we're putting what? Half. So this simply means that we have a 1 on top. Down here we have what? Half plus 2. Okay, some people think that it is difficult to do that. It is very simple, because we know that in grade 7 somewhere there, we were told that this is the same as this division sign. Therefore, we are going to say 1 divided by 1 and 1 over 2. Remember? Okay, then plus a 2 there. So when you have a division here, any whole number has a denominator of what? Of 1. When you have a division and then you want to change the sign from a division to multiplication sign, you discover that this number, the numerator becomes the denominator and the denominator becomes the numerator. So therefore, here we are going to have just a 2 plus a 2. So finally, our answer will be what? Just a 4. So this is how we solve such a question. Okay? Now, let me give you a question to try and solve a bit. We see how it goes about. Let me see how it goes. We see how it goes. Okay. Then we also have this question here. The question says, this is number 5. This is question number 5, where we have let f of x be equal to 2x, and g of x should be equal to x squared minus 1. Okay, Then here we are told to find G of f of 4. Okay, so we have G of f of 4. So how can we solve such a question? How can we solve such a question? Let's try to solve. Let's try to solve that. Let's try to solve that question there. Let's try to solve that question there. Okay. So I'm sure we've tried. Okay. So how can we solve such a question? Very simple. As we said, there's a function of G and a function of F. So this time around, we are putting this function of F in the function of what? Of G. So we are getting the function of G of X, which is equal to X squared minus 1. So where there is X here, we are putting the function of what? The function of F. So now we bring in our question, which says that, so before we put a 4, let's put X, so that we make the functions first before we place a number. So we are saying that where there is X, we are putting the function of what now? Of F. So we are saying 2X, remember this X here is what? It is squared. So now we are saying 2X what? Squared minus 1. Okay, so when you simplify this, we are going to find that this will be 4x what? Squared minus 1. Okay, then from there we are saying, okay, let's bring in our f, G of f of 4. Okay, so meaning where there's x now we are replacing it with what? With a 4. So we are saying 4 in the brackets. We are putting what? A 4. Okay, this 4 is what? Squared. So we are saying minus 1. So 4 squared, we know it is what? 16. Okay, minus 1. Okay, so when we simplify this, what are we getting there? What are we getting there? You discover that when you simplify this times that, we get what? We get a 64. Okay, a 64. Because 6 times 4, it is 24. So 4 remainder 2. Then 6 times 1, it is 4. And 4 times 1, it is a 4. Then 4 times plus a 2. Okay, so I beg your pardon. We are saying 4 times 6, it is a 24. So 4 remainder 2. Then 4 multiplied by 1, it is a 4. A 4 plus a 2, it is a what? A 6. So this is how we found a 64. Then minus 1. So when you subtract here, we are going to find a what? A 63. So this is how we solve that question. Okay, we move on to another exciting example. Okay, we move on to another yet exciting example. This is example number what? Number 6 now. Example number 6. Example number 6 says, let f of x be equal to f of x be equal to 3x minus 5. Then g of x, we have x squared plus 1. Then we are told to find, what are we finding there? we are finding g of f over 2. Okay, so now how do we find the g of f of 2? So finding this one is very simple, because first things first, as we said, when you're given a question, first of all, merge or put the functions together, make a composite function. Then after making a composite function, that's when now you come and replace your what? Your given figure. So what are we saying here? In the function of g of x, so g of x is equal to x squared plus 1. So in this function, where there's x here, we are putting what? We are putting the function of f. So we are making a composite function first before we put the what? Before we replace a number. Okay? So now we come and write our question, g of f of x first. We merge the what? The functions first. So we put the function together, we make one composite function. So here, making a composite function, we are going to say, here where there is x, we are putting the function of f. So it is a 3x minus 5, then plus what? Plus a 1 here. Okay. So after combining this one, we're going to find that this is 3x minus what? Minus a 4. So when we add the integers, we discover that different signs, we do what? Subtract and maintain the sign of a what? Of a bigger number. Okay. So same signs you add and maintain the sign of a bigger number. Okay. So from there, we now write g of hope you are seeing this color, g of f of now 2. So putting that one, we are going to say 3, where there is x here, now we are going to put a 2 minus a 4. So from there, we are going to discover that this and this will give us a 6 minus a 4. So finally, when we simplify that, we are going to find an answer as a what? As a 2. Okay? We move on to another yet exciting question again. Hope you are able to follow what I'm doing here. Hope you are able to follow. So again, we move on to another question, which is question number 7. Okay? So question number 7, we are given this question here. Given that f of x is 1 over x, g of x is x plus f. Find f of g of 1. Very simple. Find f of g of 1. As we said, before you start putting your 1 there, what you're supposed to do there is to put a what? To combine the functions or make a composite functions first. So after making a composite function, that's when now you come back and put your what? The figure that is given to you there. So what are we going to do here? Solution. In the function of f, we are putting the function of g this time around. So we are saying f of g of x first. We are doing what? In the function of f, where there is x, we are putting the function of g. So it will be 1 over x plus 4. Okay? We have made a composite function. So after making a composite function here, we should now start replacing. Where there is a x, now we put what in? we put a 1. So therefore f of g, this implies that f of g of 1 is equal to 1 over 1. We are replacing a 1 now this time around here. So 1 plus a 4. So finally we have 1 over 5. So this is how we solve this question. Very simple and straightforward. Okay, we move on. We are remaining with just 2 questions, then we go for lunch. Just 2 questions, we go for lunch. This is now number 8. Okay, so from there we also have another question here which says that let f of x be equal to x to the power 3 and g of x be equal to the root of x. Very simple. So we should find, what are we finding now? We are finding f of g over 9. Okay, so as we said earlier, that first things first, we do what? We put the function of g in the function of what? F first. So solution here, we are first of all putting the function of g in the function of f. So we are saying f of g of x first should be equal to, okay, let's put it in the function of f. We are putting the function of what? Of g. So where are we putting this function? Where there is what? Where there is x. So there we are saying, okay, we have a square root of x. Remember, this x here that we are replacing is what? It is squared. Okay, so we have made the what? The functions. We have made one composite function. Now from there, what are we going to do? We are going to say f of g of now what? Of 9, okay, is equal to, so where there is x now, we are putting what? We are putting 9. So we are saying 9 here, then squared, okay? So we are saying here we have a 3, and on top we have what? A power of 2. So this thing will give us again what? A 9. Okay? Will give us a 9. Alright. Okay? Will give us a 9. What if instead of a 2 here we have a 3? Are we going to get 9? No. It means that we have to multiply this 3 how many times? 3 times. So we're going to get a 27 here. Alright. So that is question number 8. Okay. Question number 8. Okay, as I promised, that we are remaining with 2 questions. Let's do the last one so that we can go for lunch. Okay. We do the last one and go for lunch. Okay, so let f of x be equal to the root of x. Okay, the root of x, and the g of x be equal to x plus what? Plus a 9. Okay, so now we are going to find what are we finding this time around? We are finding f of g of 7. F of g of 7. Okay, so very simple and straightforward. So how do we solve this? As I said, first things first, we should find the f of g of what? Of x. Okay, we should first find f of g of what? Of x. So how do we find f of g of x? We are replacing where there is x in the function of f. We are replacing with a function of what? Of g. So we move. So here we are putting this function. So it will be the root of x plus 9. Okay. Then from there we are saying f of g of a 7. This will give us, where there is x now, we are putting what? A 7. So it will give us the root of 7 plus 9. Okay? So this simply means that the final answer will be the root of, not the final answer, okay? The next answer will be the root of what? When we add this and this, we're going to get 16. So the final answer will be what? A 4. Because the square root of 16 is what? Is 4. Okay? Alright, let me give you a task. You go and do it home. Go and do this task home. Go and do this task home. What is that task? Okay? So we have a task with us here to go and do at home. Let f of x be equal to x squared. G of x be equal to 2x plus 1. And you should find the g of f of 3. Okay, that is number 1. Number 2, let f of x be equal to sine x. G of x is equal to equal to 2 pi. Okay, 2 pi. Find the f of g not 2 pi. Let's say pi squared. So let's find f of g of g of 3. Okay, so this is how you do it. Go and find these questions and come for submission. Thank you so much and have a good day. Thank you so much. I hope every one of us was able to try and solve these questions that were given to us to go and try at home. Otherwise, we were supposed to solve them like this. As we said, first things first. Okay, first things first. We were supposed to replace in the function of g, we replace with the function of f. Okay, so we get this function of g and write it here. This is equal to 2x plus 1. Okay, so in the function of g, where there is x, we are getting the function of f and put where there is x. So the function of f is represented by x squared. So therefore, we are going to say g of f of x will give us 2 outside, open brackets. What are we supposed to put here? It is x squared plus a 1, okay? So we have 2x squared plus 1. So after that, we are supposed now to replace g of f of what? Of 3. So now, where there is 3 in this function, we are supposed to replace with what? With a 3. So what are we going to do? We are going to replace. Where is x, we replace it with a 3. So we have a 2, open brackets, a 3 squared plus a 1. So 3 squared, we know it is 9. 9 times 2, it is what? 18. 18 plus 1, we are going to get finally a what? A 19. So this is the answer that we were supposed to find in the given first question that we were given the last time. Okay. So now, there was again another question, question 2. Question 2, we are supposed to leave our answer in radians. Since we are dealing with sine, we are dealing with angles. So therefore, after simplifying, this was question 2. After simplifying sine pi, after simplifying sine pi squared, we were supposed to find negative 0.4303, because we have to leave our answer what? Radians. So in the second question, after simplifying everything, we were supposed to find this one. So if we didn't find this one, we need to revisit our answers and solve and do the correct thing. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Thank you so much.